Hello and welcome to NoCB, a grand strategy podcast. I am your host, TJ Hafer, and with me we have Rose.
Hello.
And we have Lambert.
It's harvesting season!
It is finally harvesting season. We'll probably be talking a little bit about Bannerlord this episode, because we all had to drag ourselves away from Bannerlord to record this show. I totally lost my train of thought there. Father Loris will not be joining us on mic today because he has deadlines, which I totally understand, having missed the last 2 weeks because of deadlines. But I think he said he was going to show up in chat, so he'll be around. But first, we're going to talk about this week's Paradox Dev Diaries. And we are, of course, going to start with the most recently announced stuff first. So, Victoria 3. We got some really interesting details on that this week. The market systems, bear pops, just all kinds of cool stuff. What do you guys think so far of what we've seen?
I mean, the battle system just looks phenomenal. It's what I've been wanting from a EU4 Victoria 2 style battle system for so long. It's perfect. It's like you're literally watching one of these battle YouTube channels like Kings and Generals or Epic History TV. It's great.
Yeah,
Can you explain to me how that differs from Imperator or CK? Just because I have 7 hours in Vicky 2.
Well,
which is enough to open up all the menus basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, half of them maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
So Vicky 2's, they had more than just the 3 units that EU4 has, but it was still just a one line versus one line. Whereas now, it'll take terrain into account. There's a hill over on your right flank. You want to go and take the hill. You can garrison villages, and that's all on the map while you're, fighting your battle. It's so granular and it's just awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've all talked before about how cool it would be if you got some more Total War like mechanics in a Paradox style grand strategy game, and I wouldn't say that this is exactly on that same level of granularity, but I do like that they're kind of generally moving in that direction. Victoria, it's always been kind of a game about social movements and the sort of rising consciousness of the working class, as people become more educated and stuff like that.
Very focused on economy.
Yeah, well, and there's also the very robust economy mechanics. One thing about it that, if I go back to Vicky 2 isn't really my favorite is the military stuff, because it's okay. It's fine, but it's very clearly old Paradox. And I like that they're not just settling for it's going to be like EU4 in Vicky 3. They're actually trying to kind of push their, the military side of things forward in some new and cool ways.
Because there were quite a few military conflicts during the 1800s.
Yeah.
Oh, you could say that.
Just a few.
Just a wee few. Yeah.
Yeah. There was
I'm not going to say that Britain was involved in most of them, but I mean, that may be true at the same time.
Well, and there was also the huge change in tactics from the early 1800s to the late 1800s, which I would hope that we'll see here in Vicky 3, considering I don't know how much you've studied the American Civil War, Lambert, because you're not American. But
more than I would have expected from the Irish education system, but less than you guys, probably.
Probably. Well, one of the big things for why there were so many casualties is they were still fighting using tactics from previous generations of weapons when they had new weapons that allowed much higher accuracy and such.
Right, exactly.
Wasn't also the American Civil War the first time that it was trench warfare was used? Or the American Civil War was the first time that a type of warfare was used.
It was kind of a trial run for some of the stuff that became a big deal in World War I. They had very early kind of Gatling guns, and it was one of the first wars where sharpshooters started to become important. So there was a little bit of that.
And artillery.
I don't know if Victoria 2 really modeled that. Like you would expect a game that is set from, 1821, since, they are going all the way back to the end date of EU4 this time, so we can play cleanly through to 1936. You'd expect like late game wars should have a lot more casualties than the early game wars, and I'm not sure that that's something that Victoria 2 really touched on, but it looks like Victoria 3 will be, so I'm excited about that.
There is one part of the announcement that is a little bit disappointing to me, though, and that is, as you said, the start date. I was kind of hoping they would push it back just a little bit further, because the Napoleonic Wars was such a radical difference in the style of warfare from the rest of EU4. It fits really much more with Vicky, but I really wish they'd pushed it back just 30 years.
But did you see Oh, go for it.
Oh, no, and that would just match up better with the fact, like, EU4's start date is before the end date for CK2, so it would make sense for Vicky 3 to start before the end date for EU4. But
yeah, you just get that little bit of overlap. It'd be it's nice.
So I would agree with that, but I don't know if you guys saw the pre-order bonuses. One of them is going to be March of the Eagles Remastered, and there will be a converter from EU4 to March of the Eagles Remastered to Victoria 3. So you can kind of have that Napoleonic War era in the middle, which I think is going to be really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'll have to have a look for that bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to pre-order then.
Yeah, basically. I might spend more time in March of the Eagles Remastered than I do in Victoria 3, honestly. I was a big March of the Eagles fan. So.
See, I never played March of the Eagles, but everyone's been telling me to do it because it's like the best Paradox game. But I don't know. I've never even seen a screenshot of it. But
I don't think I've seen a screenshot of it either.
Yeah, I mean,
it's time for us to do a co-op then, is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. We definitely
March of the Eagles.
We definitely have to do some March of the Eagles for sure.
But this won't be March of the Eagles 2. It'll be a remaster.
Everyone in chat, yes, we are going to talk about the other dev diaries. We're just getting Victoria 3 out of the way first because it's the most recently announced game. It's what everyone's really excited about right now. But yeah, don't worry. Yeah. We will talk about the other dev diaries.
Reddit is absolutely blowing up with Vicky 3.
I know.
I mean, you had to expect it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
first we had Half-Life Alyx, that's Half-Life 3. Bannerlord came out.
I know,
and
it's
Vicky
crazy.
3, all in such a short... Oh, God, it's just like Christmas.
It's the year of, like, all of the games that we thought were never going to happen
It's like we have to get all this good stuff in gaming because the real world is falling to pieces.
I mean...
Exactly.
Life giveth and life taketh away.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about this specific dev diary that I found kind of interesting, because I don't think they've done anything like this before, was the fact that there will actually be bear pops in Victoria 3. Like it's actually a separate species of pop, and they can take jobs that normal pops can't. There are some jobs that are bear specific. There are some jobs that bears do better than humans. And they interact differently with the education system and stuff like that. I'm curious how this is actually going to play out. Like, can you actually make a viable all-bear nation in Victoria 3? I know someone will try,
I think you're basically going to have two options with that. Either you're going to have to play the Republic of California with your bear flag, or you're going to have to play somewhere in Scandinavia, either like Norway or Sweden specifically, so you can call everyone Björn.
Nice. I'd be down with that.
I think those are going to be your two options, really.
Well, or you could play Japan and they could all be Kuma-kun. So,
that one flew over me. I have no idea what is that Japanese.
From Paradox, they used to call him Kuma-kun on the streams.
Okay.
Yeah. Kuma is Japanese for bear. Yeah, that's an old Stellaris dev stream joke. So I'm sure people in the chat will remember Kuma-kun, at least some of you.
That one right over my head.
Yeah. It's really hard to tell, kind of like where we were with CK3 a few months ago, that we just don't really know enough about Victoria 3 at this point to really, I think, get like a clear picture of how it's actually going to play out, but it sounds like they're on the right track overall. Is there anything else you guys thought was interesting about this dev diary before we move on?
It's going to be interesting to see their release date and which of us becomes, the winner of our little poll from the first episode.
Oh, right. Rose, your prediction is coming up pretty soon, isn't it? Did you say?
I believe I
have
said.
Them written down somewhere.
Was it for announced or released?
It was for announced.
If it was announced, well, then Rose has already won.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
okay,
because it was for announcing, which I said, by PDXCon this year.
Yeah, so you're the winner.
Right, but if your thing is by PDXCon, there isn't probably going to be a PDXCon this year.
Maybe
they'll still make announcements of something. Yeah, let's.
Maybe we'll have an online PDXCon. That's a lot of the conventions that I normally go to are thinking about doing like a digital version. Alfred, right track was not meant to be a train pun, but it should have been, and I feel ashamed that I did not actually intend that pun when I said that.
No, see, when that happens, you gotta pretend like it was intentional, and then shame yourself for it.
Mm-hmm. That's what you do. That's the rules of being live on the internet.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Obviously, very excited for Victoria 3. Very excited to hear more about it in the near future. But we have another Paradox game that's probably going to be out a lot sooner than that, which is Crusader Kings 3, which we got a very meaty, exciting dev diary about religion for this week. What stood out to you guys about this one?
Tenets and doctrines. Doctrines look amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of all the modding potential and all like. I'm just thinking, okay, so these are the way that the tenets and the doctrines are laid out. How could I fit the cult of Sigma into this system? What would be the marriage doctrines of the cult of Sigma? That's basically where my head goes.
Yeah.
Look, I need Geheimnisnacht for CK3. I need it. Well, special doctrines, teachings of Sigma.
You could pretty easily make like the chaos cults too, because like the traits that are considered virtues and sins can be reformed, like even in vanilla without modding. So you could make a religion that really likes bloodthirsty, dishonest assholes and doesn't like honest, kind, meek people.
Well, without getting too much into Warhammer lore, I can totally see. Right, Zinch is going to he's going to think that deceit is fucking awesome. Khorne is going to hate deceit because he's quite honest.
Yes,
but he's going to want blood. He cares not from whence the blood flows.
It's like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to rip your face off. Like,
pretty much, yeah. I mean, all of the gods have they're not just evil. Like, Khorne's the god of honor and martial prowess, which are like good things as well. So
yeah,
but he's also an evil bastard.
You can set your sins and your virtues because you see some of that in CK2, where we have the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues, which are all based on Christianity. But if you're playing a different religion, like if you're playing down in Africa, being lustful is considered a virtue, but it's still a red icon.
Right. Yeah, so I like that they're making that a little bit more flexible to kind of reflect the different values across the world. Also, 99 vanilla faiths. So that's pretty crazy. Like they're adding Armenian Apostolic Christianity, all of the different schools of Islam, like the Asharis and the Ismailis are going to be their own faiths. They're adding different sects of Judaism. They're actually going to have different animist beliefs for different parts of Africa instead of just having it all be African paganism, which is great. And I guess the way they are structuring it is kind of like there's religion groups, and then within that there's religions, and then within those there are faiths, and they'll all
there's the groups of Abrahamic, pagan, and I think they were calling it Eastern.
Yeah, they're calling it Oriental, but yeah, it's basically Eastern. Yeah, it's
I have
Zoroastrianism, Manichaeanism, Confucianism, and the Indian religions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not be surprised if that name changes before release.
I think they were calling it Eastern at PDXCon, I think.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, the context they're using it in is not, really a bad one, but just to avoid.
It's just we're lumping all of these together. It sort of feels a bit iffy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see them putting Zoroastrian with Confucian. I mean, no.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it has more to do with like what the overarching rules for all of the religions in that group are going to be. Like, I feel like the Eastern/Oriental religions are going to have more like the mechanics the Indian religions have in CK2, where they don't really care what religion you follow if you're in their same religion group, whereas like the Abrahamic faiths, obviously, as history has shown us, don't get along quite as well usually with each other.
No. Well, some of the groups get along with the other groups, but the other groups don't get along with them.
And that's always been like a weird thing that Paradox has kind of struggled to model. Like EU4 has like heretics and tolerated heretics and things like that. And it sounds like we're going to be getting a dev diary on how religious hostility is going to work later on. On
the religious hostility, I had a big thing about this in my video on this dev diary. I have no idea how that's going to work, because I don't think it was they're putting the hostility up at the religion level, or like the group level. So Abrahamic has a hostility towards non-Abrahamic, or it has a hostility towards its own. But they didn't work like that. Some of the faiths, I mean, I know Sunni was quite welcoming towards Jews during this period when they were being shunned out of Europe.
And they were also quite,
the other way around. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work.
Sunni were quite accepting of Christians as long as they lived in their land and followed the laws.
Yeah, don't proselytize.
Accepting and tolerated are kind of... we'll say they're tolerated.
That's why I'm wondering if it's going to be like a set thing, or if religious hostility is going to be something that is dynamic. Like
it has to be
how
dynamic.
The Islamic schools work in EU4 with Cradle of Civilization, where the different schools can kind of fall in and out of favor with each other. I would imagine it'll probably be something like that.
I think it kind of has to be, because depending on the period, it's like either we hate heretics of our own religion, Catholicism. Mm-hmm. We either hate them more, or now there's a crusade going on, so the heretics can be put aside a second, and we all hate the Sunnis more. And the Constantinople's acting up again. Now we hate the Orthodox more.
Well, and that's the thing, is sometimes like the Catholic Church saw other heretical sects of Christianity as more threatening than completely different religions. Like they went after the Cathars pretty hardcore. So I'm curious how that's going to work. Like how religious hostility is going to be calculated, I guess. Like if it's going to have to do with how different they are from the base religion doctrinally, or
that's a word.
Or if it'll have something to do with, certain doctrines. If you deviate from this doctrine, that's way worse than if you deviated from this other doctrine. But I guess we'll have to wait for the dev diary on that.
We do have an interesting graph here to show, though, as Lambert sent me the link for. The number of playable religions compared to CK1, which I played.
Yeah.
Plus 2 of Svault. You get 3 religions.
I love that they've done an exponential projection.
Yes.
That's great.
This is the only exponential growth chart that you're going to enjoy this month.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see any of the other ones. This one makes me happy, as opposed to every other exponential graph I've looked at recently. Yeah.
This is a curve we want to see.
Well, they've also mentioned that there are going to be dead religions in the game. They mostly are there to represent historical characters, and they don't have like events associated with them and everything, but they do have doctrines. And if you take the right perks and you really, really like work hard at it, you can get a very pious character to convert to a dead religion. So there will be a way to like revive Hellenism if you want to, and it'll have its own set of doctrines. It just won't have any real flavor attached to it.
Which is, of course,
100% going to be
But you know, people will mod in the flavor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a Hellenic mod pretty early.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
Celtic paganism.
I'm going to turn the Eastern Roman Empire back to the true religion that they should have, Hellenism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The return, or the you are the reborn Julian the Apostate, and you can restore
a little bit about doctrines and just how flexible it's going to make things.
Yeah, somebody in Discord pointed out to me that with how flexible this is, you could make like a heresy that allows gay marriage, which is pretty cool, actually.
That is one right here, same-sex relations.
Yeah. So yeah, stuff can be shunned, which is you're going to get an opinion malice for it, or it can be criminal, which means like it will actually count as an imprisonment reason and possibly like a crusade, justification if you're found out.
As Agamede is pointing out, there's no same-sex marriage in the Q&A.
There's not? Okay, so that's not the case. Okay.
You can allow relationships. I'm sure if this is as moddable as anything else, there will be a mod that will let same-sex relations flip to marriage.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's something that's hard-coded or if that's something you could mod in, because that would be cool.
And then you make it so that... opposite sex relations are then shunned and criminal.
Well, if you do that, you end up with a very short-lived religion because you don't make babies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could just have all of your heirs come from extramarital affairs or something. But yeah, that would not be a very like utilitarian faith to practice for somebody who cares about dynastic continuity.
No.
Unless they implement like adoption mechanics or something.
Yeah, that'd end your game pretty quick.
Well, I'm finding interesting right here.
Gay feudal communism, says to Crave.
One character challenge.
Is the male adultery and female adultery is separated. And so like what they're showing here for, I'm assuming Christianity or Catholicism.
Yeah.
Is, male adultery is shunned, female adultery is criminal.
Yeah.
You could
that's pretty
have
accurate.
Totally flipped for your religion and have a matriarchy.
Yeah. But that's very historical. That if a guy was sleeping around, that's I'm gonna look sideways at you. If a woman's sleeping around, we're gonna tie rocks to her feet and throw her in a river. Exactly.
Yep.
So,
also you could bring the Reformation early with clerical marriage being allowed.
That's true. You could create your own dynamic Protestant Reformation in the
Martin
early
Luther
Middle
would
Ages.
love this system. He really would.
Who would?
Martin Luther.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Although I don't think there's enough doctrines here for the entire theses that he nailed to the
door. We need like 85 more. So.
But deviancies? Well, considering that's a picture of a goat, I'm not sure we want to know exactly what that is right now.
I think we're not going to go into that one.
I did ask Henrik Ferreus about it way back in October. I don't remember how he actually like described it to me, but it's like taboo behaviors is kind of the impression I got from it. So,
well, if I turn Hellenic, then as long as it's a bull. I mean, how else am I going to make a Minotaur? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, Zeus was always like shape-shifting into animals and stuff, so he could, have his little adventures. Yeah. Alfrey also says they mentioned in the Q&A that if you take the right doctrines, you can have 4 husbands as a woman, so we can finally have polyandry in CK or in Crusader Kings. So yeah, you could make some really interesting.
Loris, I was being kind. I wasn't going to. Also, it's a goat. It's a goat. I mean, it's not a sheep.
Loris in chat says, I can feel Lambert itching for a Welsh joke. Yeah.
So,
are
we going to talk about the Pope's hat?
The fact that it goes off the edge of the thing, yeah, it's great.
For one thing, that portrait needs to be changed because popes in his era did not have beards. I think that actually at some point became a point of contention between the Catholic and Orthodox churches, is that the Orthodox didn't want to shave their beards off.
You're going to have to turn... you need a new doctrine first before you can do that. Facial hair,
clerical beards allowed, yeah. And if you look up Alexander II, that is not at all what Pope Alexander II looked at. So I'm assuming that's probably placeholder art. But I don't envy whoever has to go in and make all the portraits for historical characters.
It is under development.
Yeah, exactly.
We also have our holy sites.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love this system. This looks great.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a combination of the best parts of CK2 and EU4's holy sites. Like, they do give you, a direct bonus for holding them. And
they also give everyone in that religion a bonus for holding, being held by your religion.
There is no... As far as what we've seen so far, though, there is no moral authority, which is interesting. There's a new thing called fervor, which they haven't told us much about yet.
I have a feeling it might be something similar. Fervor and authority, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what that actually is going to entail.
I mean, no, it definitely can't be. Because Catholicism's fervor is at 40%, whereas Coptic, who has far fewer counties, it's much weaker, has fervor of 60%. I mean, yeah, I'm struggling to think what fervor could be in that.
I'm assuming it's probably going to have something to do with conversions. I would imagine having higher fervor would make it easier to convert.
Because doesn't EU4 give religious fervor? Like when you first convert a province, it's pretty much impossible to convert them back for a while.
Yeah. Like with the Centers of Reformation, it kind of locks in a province after it's been converted.
Maybe the more fervor a religion has, the harder it is to convert people away from that religion.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does.
Mm-hmm. For both counties and for people.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing. Or how easy it is for you to convert someone else. If you are Nestorian and you've got massive fervor, you're going to be able to convert someone with less fervor more easily.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would assume.
Yeah, no, I think that could be it.
And then we have some stuff on modability, which I don't make mods, so...
I should have left my mod part till last, shouldn't I?
Probably.
Right, back to Warhammer then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like following in, the pretty much everything we've seen of CK3 so far, it's going to be a lot more moddable than CK2 was, which is, always cool. You can set starting doctrines, you can set their holy order names, you can set their starting holy sites. So, good stuff for sure.
Looks good.
In terms of modability. Anything else about CK3, this particular dev diary that stood out to you guys?
But it's a very holy dev diary, and I think we have another holy one to talk about.
We do. EU4. We finally got a look at some of the new Catholic mechanics that are coming in the Emperor expansion, which we've seen some of in the Dev Clash already. If you've been, not Catholicism, that was last week. This one is about the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah. You're all thrown off because you were lost in a black hole last week.
I was, and also I was thinking about religion because we just talked about the religion dev diary for CK3 for a while. The Holy Roman Empire, which is not actually, as we all know, holy nor Roman, nor is it an empire, but you can make it
Voltaire was biased. Voltaire was biased. He lived in an era where he lived in France in an era where France's main rival was the Holy Roman Empire. Of course, he's going to say that. It doesn't mean he's right.
It's the it's the cynical German Confederation of semi-autonomous princedoms. That's what it should actually be called.
That just doesn't roll off the tongue as well, though.
No.
Yeah. So
I can argue for every single one of those points if you like.
I think we're good.
He wasn't.
I think we're good. We know what happens when you get up on your soapbox, Lambert.
Look, Voltaire was wrong. He's French, of course.
So my favorite part of this is that you can now take you can actually choose to take the HRE in one of two different directions. You can go more towards the decentralization route, which gives you more like a stable vassal swarm kind of play style, or centralization, which is basically how the old reform path operated, where you are working towards making it into a unified state. Yeah, what did you guys think about this dev diary?
Reichskrieg sounds amazing. I mean,
yes.
The decentralized reforms, I'm going to go there like almost every time because it looks just more fun.
It also sounds like it's going to be way more powerful, just with how vassal swarms in EU4 tend to be really overpowered.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just everyone getting manpower when you're at war with someone outside the empire, the emperor being able to say, look, there's a big threat. It's the French. I'm not saying the French because of any other reason other than it's the French. And then he can call, Reichskrieg, calling all of the empire to war with the French. Like, who doesn't love that? That's awesome.
Well, and the fact that as we're looking here at the decentralized reforms, like expanding the Geminir Pfennig?
Gemeiner Pfennig, yeah.
The fact that you're getting more manpower, and with the changes that's coming to mercenaries, manpower is going to become a lot more important, especially late game.
Yeah, I like the movement speed as well.
One thing I'm interested about with Reichskrieg is, does everybody fight for the Emperor's CB? Like, if you call a Reichskrieg and you conquer, Burgundy or the Burgundy region of France or whatever, like, does the Emperor get that land? Like, does whoever is closest on their border get that land? Like, that's what I'm kind of curious about. I mean, I guess it would just work like a normal coalition war where you could, give occupation to different princes, but like, are they going to care if you take it all for yourself? Is there any reason you wouldn't do that?
They might if they have cores or claims.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I expect it's going to be something along the lines of a coalition war where if you don't have a core or claim, you can't take the land. And it's going to be more about balkanizing France rather than stealing all of it for yourself. Yeah. It doesn't have to be France.
Turning them into more little princes in the HRE as the HRE grows and expands.
Oh, that's a good idea because you get bonuses for the more princes you have, so you could break off all those little French breakaway states and turn them into HRE princes. That would be kind of cool to create like a patchwork of like European micro-states that are all part of this decentralized, vassal swarm. That would be cool.
Several centuries early.
Yeah.
Well, but then on the other side, we have the Emperor unites the Empire under the Holy Roman Empire tag, which is, even if it's going to be more fun to play the other way, doing this and then painting the map is going to be the goal of many, many people.
Yeah, grayscale was something that you clicked at the last day of the last month of the campaign because the vassal swarm was just objectively so much more powerful.
Yeah, and I'm curious if they're going to do anything to balance that because it does seem like, like I said, like the decentralization path seems like it would be a lot more powerful.
It's just more. I don't even care if it's more powerful. It looks more fun. I'd rather play with the Empire existing and playing within that system rather than just be like, the Empire doesn't exist anymore. I am the Empire. All right,
revoking
Palpatine,
the privilege. Members are given a choice to stay with the Empire and become a vassal under the Emperor, or to leave the Empire. You might want to,
same as it is now.
Yeah,
but you might end up wanting to push and form the Empire sooner, just to tidy up borders. Though I think someone here in this voice chat does not care about pretty borders, as witnessed by our Venice game and his upcoming videos.
I care about heresy and eradicating it, and I eradicated the heresy.
The Irish owning England and Wales and Scotland was heresy, but the English owning Wales, Scotland, and Ireland is not heresy.
I'm glad you finally see the light. Yes. God, it took you long.
I have some objections here. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one in the world that does.
So what I'm hearing is that you guys are playing as Venice. And
we're Italy now.
Lambert went way out of his way to liberate the English from Celtic oppression. Is that what?
Oh, no. They're still a vassal of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
But
who is a vassal of Italy?
Ireland. Well, we vassalized part of Ireland, and then they helped them conquer the entire British Isles. And their green looked really pretty with our green Italy, but Lambert took objection to that, and so he spent. If you watch his upcoming video, oh god,
I stab hit. Truce broke. Our vassal Leinster like 4 times to fix it. Look, it was my last video on this thing, on this collab, so I had to go out with a bang and fix the goddamn heresy.
I mean, no part of that surprises me. So,
am I that predictable? Look, I told them I was going to do it, and I did it. I followed through. So
okay, all right, fair enough.
But I did leave us with no manpower, -2 stability, and enough aggressive expansion to make Napoleon jealous.
Yes.
Well, since we have these 2 paths now, this might be a good time to post a new Twitter poll to see if people are more interested in doing the decentralization or the centralization path. The HRE, because I'm curious what our listeners think.
That'd be a good
one.
Yeah. So we'll probably post that on Twitter at some point. Anything else about EU4? We've got very quick Hoi4 dev diary after this.
Yep.
Yeah. Well.
The force into HRE CB, that's another big thing, is the Emperor now gets a CB where you can basically force a country into the HRE, which is very cool. And they've also changed it so that you can't cheese imperial authority by banking provinces and adding them like little by little anymore. That's no longer a thing. So you're gonna have to get your imperial authority the good old fashioned way that your Habsburg forebears had to walk to the Diet uphill both ways in the snow. So, but yeah, Hoi4. We got an update on the beta patch. Probably the most notable thing, at least from my perspective about this, is we're getting new Spanish units. I'm sure Loris.
We don't have our resident artist to talk about it today.
Yeah, I'm sure Loris is psyched that the Carlists are getting their red hats. So at last, the anarchist model looks pretty cool too. They got the red and the black. It almost looks like an In-N-Out burger cap. Yeah, I'm always down for new unit models. I like the flavor. I haven't been through all of these notes for the beta patch yet, but did either of you guys see anything in particular that stood out to you about this?
No, I didn't look at this one, honestly. I do like the artwork though.
Yeah,
I mean everyone no one can say no to a good red
no
beret.
longer abandoning people,
which is good. Yeah. The the EU now correctly gains scores on Belgium and the Netherlands, so it's good that they're taking a basically Easter egg tag and continuing to update it. I don't think I've ever formed the EU in Hoi 4. It is possible to do it. I think you have to do the Democratic Germany path. Is what unlocks that. I'm not sure if you can do it as anyone else. Maybe somebody in chat knows. Yeah, you can as a European democracy. There's actually a way to form the EU. It was kind of weird that they didn't get cores on Belgium, since that's where like the headquarters of the EU is.
Yeah, you'd think it would.
Yeah. Historiograph in chat is pointing out that the very last patch note is that they fixed the sound effects for light armor fire and it now has more DACA. Because you
can't go wrong with more DACA.
You can never have too much DACA. That's that's my grandfather always said.
Yeah.
He was
his name
orc.
Gork or Mork?
Yeah. I'm actually 1/4 orc. Not a lot of people know that about me. Yeah.
So, you can see it in your face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got the look of it all.
I guess so. Orcs canonically reproduce with spores, so I'm not sure how that worked necessarily. I never asked questions about it, and my family never talked about it, so I think it's probably better off that way. Yeah, somebody ate a weird mushroom, and then it was all downhill from there.
Implying there are any mushrooms that aren't
weird.
So
much.
Yeah. So we'll get some. Did they say a release date for this beta patch yet? I don't know if they did. Just that it's in development. But they're going to be giving us a roadmap update next week. Or is it out? Is it out already? Like, can you opt into this? I haven't actually launched Hoi 4 lately.
Possibly
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
I can't see it where it says it, but maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get a development roadmap next week. So those of you who have been, or those of us,
adding a lot of accessibility features.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's really cool. That's actually something that I know. There's a couple members of the Loresworn community that are very invested in that, and that's something that I've asked the Paradox developers about pretty regularly, and they seem to be continuing to expand the accessibility for these games, which is awesome. I'm all for that.
You have
multiplayer chat speech to text.
Yeah,
it's going to be such a shit show.
we'll get.
You can turn it on or off. So
we need to get a multiplayer game where like Caption Bot plays the Soviet Union. That'd be amazing. But yeah, those of us that have been wondering what's going to be happening after this patch cycle, hopefully we'll be hearing a little bit more about that soon. I don't know, like what do you guys feel like would be the next thing you would want to see expanded on in Hearts of Iron? Because we've had a naval update, we've had an air update. We have espionage now. They've added fuel. They've added, they've expanded the supply system. Like
I'd honestly want to see smaller packs, like not full game expansions, but like smaller packs that just focus on a region.
Yeah.
Such as, definitely. Here's Scandinavia content pack.
Scandinavia, South America, the Middle East, I'd love to see get expanded on.
A year of debug and optimization. I guess that could work too, yeah.
It adds focus trees for those nations, maybe some events.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in terms of like if they were going to add another big feature, I'm not sure where else I would need them to go with it at this point. Like I kind of feel like all of the like big banner features that I would have wanted when 1.0 came out kind of, exist now. So
get a sponsorship by Marvel and do one of those optional DLCs that you really shouldn't have, where it's Captain America and there's Hydra and wonder weapons and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that would be cool. Like that would actually be cool to have the original Battlefield 1942 had like the secret weapons of World War II expansion.
Oh, flying around in a cardboard box. Yes,
that would be great. I would love to see that, even if it was like an optional thing that you could toggle on and off. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Do you know how many people would scream bloody murder about that because it's not historical?
I couldn't give the smallest fraction of a fuck about those people.
I kind of agree. Yeah, if it's something you can turn off.
Haven't I heard you complain about the Sunset Invasion in CK2, Lambert?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
I can turn it off. These people can turn that off as well.
So when the U.S. intervenes in World War II, isn't that technically Sunset Invasion? Or does it have to be like fascist Mexico?
It has to be. No, there is no Sunset Invasion. No.
Well, they're coming from the same place.
Well, in fairness, they're actually coming from the north because they went through, Britain and then down again.
So if you play as Mexico and you go fascist and then you invade Europe, then that is the Hoi 4 version of Sunset Invasion.
I guess so.
I guess.
Okay. So they need to add a restoration of the Aztec monarchy path from fascist Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Where the final focus is Sunset Invasion.
What they really need to add is the ability for a Greek fascist or monarch to embrace Hellenism. Because of course, you just need to embrace
Hellenism.
Yeah.
Oh, Lightspeed in chat points out extending the timeline. I could see that. I like that. I would play a Korean War expansion for Hearts of Iron 4. And Dan Lind, Podcat, in the past has said that he wouldn't want to go much past that, but he does think Hearts of Iron 4 could probably handle the Korean War. So yeah, that would be kind of cool.
And what you're saying, Lightspeed, about reworking the current trees, that's why I'm thinking something like smaller content packs that focus on specific regions.
Yeah, I mean, we still need a Soviet rework. They're the big major power that's like gone the longest without one, but I would love to see all of the focus trees updated to be as deep as Spain and Portugal are now. That would be great. So.
Or Mexico.
Yeah.
That Mexico tree is a pitch you could fall into.
It's a chungus. It is a true chungus.
In the Mexico tree, can you rename yourself to Aztecs?
Not yet.
Well, that needs to be a thing then. Yeah.
They should. They should add restoration of the Aztec monarchy, and a flower war mechanic and a Sunset Invasion focus. Yes.
Imagine Mexico invading the US just to take some Texans back to.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting. Okay, so here's how it could work, though, because so if you reform the Aztec faith in like 1939 or whatever, your stability should be tied to having to continually sacrifice people. So you would have to conquer certain states and then set the occupation type to flower war, which will increase resistance in that state, but it will keep your stability ticking up. Because if you don't have any sacrifices, your stability will just continue to go down.
And clearly, in that way, you have to model...
I just did it. I just designed the Sunset Invasion DLC for Hearts of Iron 4. You're welcome, Paradox.
So
go ahead.
You're designing that but can you design an Atlantis expansion?
That would be... I would play that.
Not in Hearts of Iron, but I can think of another game that
definitely not Hearts of Iron. But we do have another game that had a big update and a new DLC this week.
A big update that Rose and I have not had a lot of time to spend with, unfortunately. So Lambert, why don't you lead us into the Archimedes update for Imperator?
I'm going to sneak in before Lambert says a word, though, because I know once he gets started, he's not going to stop. Am I not wrong in thinking that these new map modes were added with this patch?
You're not wrong.
Okay, I
trade
thought
goods
so.
was always there.
Well, yes, but
the
government
one
type,
is new.
that's something that we've wanted since the day the game came out. I remember talking with, I think it was McConnell TV and Mordred Viking, maybe Feedback Gaming too. And we were sitting there discussing the governments and how we couldn't find them on the bloody map.
Yeah,
that was one that definitely needed to be there.
Yeah, Imperator 1.0 was way behind the curve in terms of available map modes.
And so was the last patch, because they limited us to 1 bar, and now that's fixed.
Yeah, what? Why? Why did they do that?
I don't know, but it hurt me so much.
I need at least 3. 2 is better.
And the
2 is a lot better.
The trade good one is new too.
No, it's not.
I think
was it on here?
What has changed is that Salt is now no longer the same color as Wasteland, which is nice.
Yeah,
it was very hard to find salt provinces, but that's changed. But no, trade goods.
You can no longer be salty about the salt.
No.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you can, but no.
You can, but you no longer are justified in being salty.
Unjustified salt is the best kind of salt.
Civilization is the new one as well.
No,
I think that was in.
There are government type is new. We have holdings. We have. Oh, I'm going from memory because I don't have the game open.
Map modes. Government type, province rank, naval range, holdings.
Oh, naval range is glorious. I love it.
Well, I'm looking at the ones. No. I'm looking at the ones on this loading screen. If you're looking at the stream right now, guys.
Yeah, up there you had terrain, you had country, and I think you also had culture and religion, and that was it.
Yes, that's what I was like. That's what I'm talking about. Is these ones are different. I haven't even loaded into the game fully yet.
Oh yeah, right. Load into the game. We can talk about the new ones though.
So they added a bunch more to the lobby, basically that were available once you loaded into the game, but you couldn't see them in game setup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, now we understand each other. We're on the same page.
All right. Now, so Lambert can do his discussion. Which nation would you like me to port into to start with?
Egypt. Egypt's probably the best one to show off the different things.
Really? Because they didn't get a new focus tree or anything this time.
They didn't, but I mean the mission trees are they're not the big part of this update, really. The big part is religion in general, and Egypt is very, let's say, religiously diverse. They're almost entirely Kemetic religion, but the country itself is Hellenic, and that's because obviously it's not so long since Alexander the Great came and conquered it just a little bit. So what they've got is they've got one of their pantheon. They now have 4 gods that they revere in Egypt. One of them is Alexander the Great. And then they have 3 Kemetic gods. And if you have, for every one of the gods that you revere, the people of that faith gain 5% happiness.
Interesting.
So religious syncretism is a thing that you can do.
So even though the state religion is technically Hellenic, they actually have more happiness bonuses to Kemetic than they do to Hellenic.
Yes. Precisely. And you can change this. You can freely swap out your gods to Hellenic ones. Say if you want to revere, Athena, Zeus, all these kind of ones, that's totally possible. You can revere anyone of your faith, whether you own the holy site or not. Or you can also revere any god that you have the holy site for. So if you want to revere a different Kemetic god, for example, you totally can. All of the gods have their own passive bonuses that are always active. So, for example, you got Alexander the Great there with some morale of armies. You got Amun with some aggressive expansion impact, etc., etc. And then every 8 years you can, a bit like the Omen system, it's still called Omen, but you can then click on one of the gods and you'll get the extra bonus.
Is Omen duration still totally useless, or does that actually do something again now?
I mean, you can't call another Omen for that long.
For 5 years.
5 years.
Well,
Why was I thinking 8?
like the
Maybe
modifier
it's 8 for an individual god.
Well,
I think it's 8 for Judea.
In the previous, that could be it. In the previous patch, there were still modifiers that existed that gave you a bonus to omen duration, which I'm pretty sure was useless.
Yes, it was.
Didn't cost anything to activate anymore.
In the patch notes, there is a line that literally says, purged all remaining uses of omen duration and omen cost.
Okay.
They're all gone.
Good.
So, yeah, that's good. I think the most interesting part of this for me, though, is the ability to deify your own rulers.
Yes.
When you merge that with the fact that you can name your kids now, you can totally... I'm just going to grab a screenshot for you because I took a screenshot of it.
Here we go.
I'm going to pop that in our chat. You can...
And I will share it with y'all in here.
So this was my... when it comes up.
So I'm also seeing 2 bonuses under each deity, but one of them is kind of grayed out. Is that like something you can unlock by like upgrading the holy site, or how does that work?
So the top one is passive. That's on for everyone all the time. And the bottom one is the one that is active when you use the omen.
Okay. That makes sense.
If you deify a ruler, so either one of your previous rulers or anything like that, then you can you get an extra bonus as well, and that's only for deified rulers. But yeah, this was my Macedon campaign where I got the Gotta Catch 'Em All achievement. So
nice.
Alexandros the Fourth, the Fourth, that's Alexander's son. I made him the deity of war after his father. Nice. Philippos the Second is his dad. Cassander is the guy that killed Alexander the Fourth. Mm-hmm. But he's quite... He likes himself quite a lot, and he was alive when he made himself a god, so it makes sense. Nice. And then Lambertos it's me. I'm awesome. Also Lambertos the Seventh, because I swear I didn't do 6 others.
It was lucky number 7.
Your bonus you're giving there, though, is to population capacity. I feel like that's not good social distancing. That's I don't know. I'm a little bit iffy about that one.
But it is probably one of the most powerful bonuses you can get.
I do like monthly wages for characters, though. That's
especially 10% is really powerful.
Being able to underpay my government ministers is always something that.
Look, they just don't deserve the money.
No.
Money should go to the state.
Yeah.
As Agabade is pointing out in chat, there are 311 deities in total at the beginning before you start deifying your rulers.
Yeah, which is just amazing. Real quick.
Has anybody looked at if the Germanic religion has any new ones? I kind of want to see.
Oh, the Tuistics have some gods, yes.
Like, have they added any of the later Viking Age deities that you can adopt? Is what I'm wondering. I'm just gonna pull up the game real quick while we're talking about this.
This is nice that it actually brings you on the map to where the holy sites are.
Yeah.
So what is the actual? I know I read this dev diary a long time ago, but what is the actual requirements and process for deifying a ruler?
Your ruler has to have very high popularity. I think it's 90. Okay. You have to have enough prestige, and I think it costs political influence. It's actually relatively cheap to make your character a god. And like I say, you can do any of your previous rulers, and for Macedon that also includes, Philip and Alexander's dad, because he was the ruler of Macedon. It would also include Alexander the Great if you own his body. If anyone who has the body of Alexander can revere him as a god, which is awesome.
Then the other thing that I think I was wondering about this when we talked about the dev diary, but you've played Judea now. Can you actually turn living characters into new prophets?
No. No. As Judea, you are locked into what they have from the very start.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I think has one of the most powerful bonuses. If you do the Omen for Moses, you just get a free provincial investment, which I think is really, really powerful. Like, really good. So yeah, and I think it is 8 years for Judea. Every 8 years, you just get a provincial investment for free, and I mean you can't argue with that. It's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Yes.
Let me
How
see.
do you guys think Archimedes compares to Livy and Cicero? I think Cicero is still the best single update that the game's had, but that's going to be tough to beat ever because it was such a radical change in direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
The game went from one way to
saying that
different.
Cicero was better than Archimedes doesn't make Archimedes weak at all. It's just Cicero was just way more. But I think it is going in the right direction. There's another part of the patch that is pretty huge as well, and that is loyalty. It's been very much reworked from how it was before.
Right, because there's like a resting point for loyalty now, right?
No, it used to be that. And they've changed it to be instead of a system of weights, it's more of this gives you plus 20 loyalty and it affects it instantly. And when I read that in the dev diary a few weeks ago, I thought it was going to be bad. Like, I didn't like the change. But after playing with it, it works so much better. Like, loyalty of your characters is something that you now have to give an active shit about. And before it was, for the most part, this guy's got the most martial, he's now my general. That's no longer the case. You actually have to care. And I've seen people really hate it, but I absolutely adore it. I think it's fantastic. Like I say, if you give the entire army to somebody who is a pretender or who is lapsed or someone who doesn't like you all that much, you're gonna have problems because he's not gonna like you that much.
Or pretender and ambitious.
Yeah, don't give an army to someone who's ambitious. Even if he's a bloody good general, he's ambitious. He's going to take the army and he's going to screw you right up.
So it does not look like they've added any new tuistic deities yet, but I'm sure that's moddable, so...
Oh, yes, for
Modders, get on it.
Do you think it'd be too easy to steal people in multiplayer with Inspire Disloyalty being an instant action? Probably yes. I think it might be a little bit too easy for Inspire Disloyalty. I mean, I think probably a good way to do it would be have some things be a weight or a ticking, this will tick up to 20, and some things being instant. I think Inspire Disloyalty should be one that ticks. Having that be instant is a little bit too powerful for multiplayer, especially. But yeah, I mean, as Judea, there's one character that you have there that is lapsed. He starts with about 50 loyalty. If you give your army to him, he's going to rebel. So you have to choose someone who's slightly a worse general, purely because if you choose the best guy, he's going to use the army to screw you up. Making friends with a character gives them plus 15, I think. And if you give double the amount of jobs to their family than they want, they also get another plus 15. So it's a lot better to really work on making your families happy. It's that guy there, Joseph Cyphus Sinicus. He's the one right at the bottom.
This guy. The bald man.
Yeah, the bald man. Evil. Don't give him an army, mate. He's gonna. Don't like him. No, don't like him.
Nice and healthy.
StatCheck says ticking loyalty is entirely removed from the code. I mean, if you give a holding to somebody, it slowly ticks down away. Surely you could use something along those lines to mod it back in, maybe. But I think also it'd be something that the devs themselves would have to add in.
Oh, Agamede pointed out that the wiki now has a list of all the deities on it, so there's a ton of new druidic ones, it looks like.
Oh yeah, Agamede put it on there. And apparently Snow Crystal said to him, oh, this is going to be useful for me when adding new deities.
Nice. Yeah, we've got Andraste on there. Dragon Age fans might recognize that name, but that was actually a Celtic deity from this era. I'm not sure which ones of these were already in here. No, I think Nodens might be new. Tyrannus, Tutatis, Gobanus were already in there. I'm a geek about like druidic, the druidic pre-Roman druidic faith. So yeah, I'm excited to see some of these. Rosmerta, she might have been in there already too.
I would recommend not looking at this too much though, because you don't know what the deified effects are of it just by looking in game until you deify a character, and I kind of like that.
I kind of like the surprise. That third column, then.
So yeah, but if you want to, you can look at the wiki.
The Jewish religion has some female prophets too. It's got Deborah and Esther on there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of them is really, really good as well.
Yeah.
The one that you start with, I think that's Deborah. Her bonus is to convert people to your culture, and that can be quite difficult. With culture is converted very slowly, especially when it's not of your religion. So just getting a boost there is quite nice.
Nice. I want to talk about these new map modes now that we're actually in the game.
Oh yes, the territories level map mode is so useful. It's awesome. Being able to see at a glance what's a city is going to be so much just awesome for changing buildings.
I have wanted that for so long.
Lightspeed, God, that's a good question. Imperator Rome better than EU4 now? That's a good question, and I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people would think.
Yeah,
for me, I enjoy it more.
Yeah,
because there are parts of EU4 that I
want to see change
dislike.
In EU5.
Well, I mean, okay, so we had this discussion very briefly on 3 Moves Ahead, because I said I feel like Imperator is coming up on the heels of EU4. It might even be surpassing EU4 for me. And my co-hosts on that podcast said I was insane and that they had a bridge to sell me when I told them that. But I mean, I'm super biased. I just like this era a lot more than the EU4 era. Like, the classical antiquity and the Middle Ages, that's my shit. Like, I'm a Sword Age fan, not so much a Gun Age fan. Until you get into the World Wars, I'm a little bit more interested in that era. But I feel like Imperator is getting to a point where it can really stand beside CK2 and EU4 and Hoi 4 and as
Imperator apparently reached over 5,000 concurrent players today.
That's cool. Yeah. That's still a lot less than EU4, but yeah.
It is free to play right now, though. I think I missed that tweet.
I think Imperator still has the baggage of its release weighing it down.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
To the point that it's almost as much of a meme as certain other games like Vicky 3 have become.
See, for me, there's parts of EU4 that I think are better, and most of that is flavor for different countries and mechanics for individual countries. But at the same time, I don't think that that's going to change when it comes to a lot of the map in Imperator, because we simply do not know enough about all of the individual Gallic tribes or the Germanic tribes or the Iberian tribes, because the people who wrote about them, the Romans, didn't see a fucking difference between them. They're all just barbarian Gauls. They didn't see much of a difference between Clan A and Clan B. They're all just people to conquer. So there's how much flavor can you really add to these places when we just don't know?
You have to start turning
shit up.
You have to start turning away from just history and go beyond myths and get a fantasy writer, historical fantasy writer almost, to come up with some of the contents, which then that takes the game away from being a pure history game, which is what Paradox typically has done.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of already done that, though, because a lot of the tags in, like, the fringe areas in Imperator are, like, pretty much invented. Like, we don't know enough about the tribes in Iberia to say, hey, okay, these guys lived here, these guys lived here. Like, a lot of those are just, like, best guess invented tribes. So I guess the question kind of becomes, where is the line with that?
Yeah.
Personally, I'd be kind of okay with them filling it out a little bit more with conjecture. Like, I would rather have a world that feels richer and more developed than to just be like, well, we don't know what was over here, so we're just going to leave it blank.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But I will say there's nothing in Imperator that I actively dislike, whereas for EU4, that's mana for me. I just actively dislike mana. And Imperator doesn't have that. I've wanted in EU4, which I've got 5,000 hours in. I'm not saying it's a bad game, not by any stretch of the imagination. For EU4, since maybe I had 400 hours in it, I've wanted characters, and I've wanted pops, and I've wanted no mana, and that's what I've got here. If somebody makes a 1444 mod for Imperator that has the map, it has, you know, the events just ported straight over, some of the more flavorful events like the Holy Roman Empire and all that, just ported over, I'd play the shit out of that. Because it's not so much about the time period for me. I mean, I do obviously like the time period as well, but it's not the time period that makes me like Imperator more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I definitely think
I really want to play Imperator 1444.
I'm of the opinion that EU5 is probably somewhere in early to mid stages of being worked on.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
And I'm hoping that they've taken a lot of the feedback that came from Imperator and what people want in these games now, in this day and age, and are moving towards that with EU5. Does that make sense? Such as the no mana.
Oh, yeah. Well, Johan said he's never going to make a game with mana again.
Yeah.
Well, he's still on EU4. He's not on a secret project, so...
That's true. That is true. Alfred said, what would characters add to EU4 in your opinion? Have you ever been pissed off with the personal union mechanics in EU4? Me too. It would fix that. End of story. Yeah. No, being able to see the... Like, what I'd wanted in EU4 when it comes to characters, I would have accepted just a family tree where I can plot where, my king has this amount of sons, this one is the primary heir. I don't need them to have character. I just need them to be registered and I can see them and I can have a family tree where I can see where it all goes.
There's the thing like marriages in EU4. That's always bugged me. Oh, we make royal marriages with all these countries. Who is marrying who?
Yeah. Yeah, where is my heir coming from,
Why are they a strong heir? Why are they a weak heir? Are they my cousin's kid because I had no kids? Like, a family tree would be nice.
So that in itself is where characters could improve EU4.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'd accept just a family tree like that. That would be enough.
I just think all of the Paradox games should have characters in it, but that's because I'm a Crusader Kings fanboy, so...
Well, or even if you had... I mean, if you wanted to go a little bit deeper, because you send your diplomat to go spy on a nation, what if they got to a certain level of spy network, you could tell them to try and murder one of the royal family members?
Yeah, it's weird that EU4 doesn't have assassinations, because there were assassinations going on.
And you can use it on either side. Like you have a potential for a PU. You see that this guy's only got 3 kids. Hey, let's go see if we can commit some murder.
Yeah.
I mean, have a chance of failure, but have a chance to give them a CB against you.
To bring it back to an earlier podcast, we need to take that monarch and yeet him out a fucking window, and then you've got yourself a personal union.
They're adding a defenestration mechanic for Hussites in Emperor for E4, so, we should be able to pick exactly who we want to yeet out the window.
We also should choose specifically what floor the window is on.
Well, and what holding is the window in.
If you just want to cripple him, you'll choose like the second floor. But if you want to make sure he's dead, you choose the moon door.
Well, no, make it a new building type where you add levels onto it, and it increases the severity of the yeeting that you can access. Like it starts out as just a 2-story building, and then you can add extra floors onto it as you get more admin tech or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Would that be a holding you could give away and then see on this beautiful new holding map mode?
Possibly.
Oh yeah, so to bring us back from our tangent. So this is another really welcome change to Imperator because it was pretty much impossible to keep track of which holdings were where previously. This is probably the feature I'm most interested in, even more than the religion, to see how the changes to holdings actually play out, in the game. Because it was kind of weird before. We've talked about it on a previous episode, where you'd be handing out these piecemeal holdings, and you could have like 5 different characters owning a holding in the same province. Lambert, have you noticed anything like particularly game changing about how this works now?
You need to make sure that your heads of family like you, or you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have a very bad time. So the heads of the families are going to be the ones owning the vast majority of your holdings.
Mm-hmm.
And if they break away in a civil war, maybe they have too much power in your country due to the fact they have all the bloody holdings. It'll be those holding territories that will rebel with them.
Interesting.
And they do get quite a lot of power base. They can also improve their holdings, it gives you more money in the territory, but it also gives them more power base. And if they're particularly devious, they can totally work it to their advantage, where they now have enough power to screw you right over. So
nice.
Avoiding civil wars is something that you're going to have to work on, and the holdings mechanic definitely plays into that quite a lot.
And naval range
while
actually
it does, while it does say that the holding is owned by character, it's more. I like to think of it more as the holding is owned by the family, because it's all the head of the family that has them for the most part.
He tells them what to do.
That naval range map looks slick. That is really cool. I like the way they did the gradients with that.
It's not new.
Is it not?
Well, it is and it isn't, right?
Okay.
On one of the first versions of the Bronze Age mod that I played back in the previous patch, that map mode, looking exactly like that, was in it.
Oh, really?
And I posted a picture to the mod dev, Svanley, and said, "Oh, this is cool. How the hell did you add this?" He's like, "It's already in the game, but I was only using it to test something. I'm going to take it out in the next version." And then they've gone and added it in the next version of Imperator, so you're not taking it out anymore.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. Yeah.
What I don't like is that you can still just sail outside it. Like, you're going to take a little bit of attrition.
Yeah.
So what? What you should do is as soon as your ship goes into that red area, you should be losing ships hand over fist every single day. Some ships should, sink, because that's what bloody happened. You should increase the amount of attrition from any kind of attrition event, so storms or outside of naval range,
you know what?
or being at sea too long, increase that by 100%. Or 10 times or whatever.
For Egypt. I'm not sure how it will expand over the years as the game as the game as the game runs. But it does make me think of the what was the big Paradox event before it released last year, when Egypt was sending stacks upon stacks of troops to Rome. That's outside the naval range.
Yeah, you need to capture like a waypoint on the way there first. You should have to if you want to do that.
Actually, no, I think he did own Crete, maybe.
Yeah, Crete's generally a big target for Egypt in every game, because Crete has iron, and Egypt doesn't start with any iron.
Crete also has wood, too.
True, but wood isn't as important as it used to be.
No.
You can trade in wood fairly easily, and you can build boats without it.
You can build some boats. They're not great boats, but you can build some boats.
Starchtech says, why don't ships just use food too? I completely agree. Ships should totally use food, and ships should be able to give their food to troops along the shore.
That would be cool if they had like a supply ship, like the supply caravans.
Because that's what Alexander did in his campaigns. His ships supplied the army, and they were just like sailing along the coast. Just do it. It's better.
Yeah, I'd
love that. Yeah. But yeah, I really like the new patch. There are certain things I think, obviously, the game's still got a long way to go, but it's getting there, and it's not going slowly. Yeah, the improvements are coming hand over fist, so I'm happy.
They are working hard at it, and they are doing their best to listen to what everyone's opinion on it, combine all those opinions, and come up with something that will please the most people and make a viable and workable game.
I'm working on a video now for what I want to see in Imperator.
Nice.
So I don't know when that's going to come out, because I have to write scripts
Bannerlord.
and shit. And Bannerlord,
Do we want to talk about Bannerlord really quick before we get out of here?
Well, it is grand. It is a very grand game.
It is.
There is strategy involved in how you play it, so therefore it fits in the podcast. Let's talk about it. It's harvesting season.
We don't have a ton of time. What factions are you playing?
Vlandia.
And they're based on the Normans, from what I understand.
Yeah, pretty much. I just like the look of their armor the most.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with them. But yeah, they sort of remind me quite a lot of the Lannisters in Song of Ice and Fire as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I quite like it.
Rose, what kind of character do you have?
A lady on a horse with a bow and arrow.
What are they called now?
The steppe nomad people.
Yeah.
Crusade Carnate.
Carnates?
Which I guess the what someone was telling me on Twitter is that the were they the Kirgits in Warband are one of the clans of this faction.
Crusades.
Yeah. So this is like set 200 years earlier. That's what I was confused, because I didn't actually read much about the lore before I booted it up, and I was like, what are these factions? I don't know any of these guys. What the hell?
Yeah. So that instead of, a sequel, they've done a prequel. And I think that's pretty... It's a good way to do it, because all the lore that you've written into Warband, all the, the characters talking about the history, you can use that for your game instead of writing completely new things and coming up with new ideas for where Calradia goes from there. I think it's really ingenious.
And because of the style of it being an open game, the fact you're not writing yourself into a corner. Quite often with prequels, if you set them like too soon before the original, you run into roadblocks where people are like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen. This doesn't matter."
Yeah.
The fact that this game is so open, it does matter.
Well, I'm gonna shock everyone in chat by saying that I made a Sturgian with a big fucking axe. That's that's my character. I'm not that far yet. I'm probably like 6 hours in because I was finishing up the Persona 5 Royal Review, which is a 130-hour JRPG.
I love how I love how the caption bot totally just censored you.
Oh, did it?
It just had F and stars.
Well, fuck you, caption bot.
Lesser known fact as well. TJ is actually part sturgeon.
I am, yeah. I'm one fourth orc, 1/4 sturgeon.
Yeah.
Did we? Was the orc thing? Was that on mic, or was that before we started recording?
I think that was on mic.
Okay,
sorry.
Cool. I want to make sure we're not going completely out of context on that reference. But yeah, and then if you listen to future episodes, you'll learn what the other two quarters are. But I'm not going to reveal that here. But
no. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Can't do
one
spoilers.
of them is orc. One of them is sturgeon. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Judging by my sleeping pattern, I think I'm like 100% vampire.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I am always confused by when you're messaging back. I'm like, wait, isn't it like 3 a.m. in Europe right now?
Oh, look, last night I had some stuff to do, so I recorded my CK3 Dev Diary at 4 a.m.
Well, I also don't think Loris sleeps at all, like ever.
Unless it's by the fire when we're supposed to podcast.
Unless we're supposed to be podcasting. That's the only time that he ever sleeps. Yeah. Because the different times of day that he responds to stuff, I'm always like, when do you sleep? Yeah. So.
Well, that brings into question, when do you sleep, TJ? If you're noticing this from Father Loris.
Very, very rarely is the answer to that. Especially when I have a lot of deadlines to work on. So, yeah, I guess we don't really have time to go like super deep into Bannerlord, but I'm enjoying it. It's still kind of janky. It's not as much of the dead-eyed
stairs
mechanical step forward from Warband as I was expecting, although I've heard some people say when you get like 20, 30 hours in and you start getting more into like the dynastic gameplay, that's when you really notice a lot of the bigger changes. But
it's definitely different getting married. My character hasn't gotten married yet, but they've gotten engaged.
Yeah.
And
congratulations.
A lot of money
yeah.
to get them.
That checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely correlates to my experience. I'm not that far in either. But I'm honestly totally fine with it not being radically different from Warband. All I wanted from this game was Warband with polish and an update, and honestly, if they'd just given me the new fucking sieges, I'd have been like, take my goddamn money, because those sieges fucking awesome.
I haven't actually fought a siege yet. Yeah.
I think there are some things that I'm hoping they're adding, such as wanderers who are good at things besides more than fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I mean, it is still early access too, so we have to keep that in mind. It's weird that it's early access after it's been in development for 8 years, but
someone's pointing out the Tale Worlds only has like 102 people on staff or something.
And that's still a lot. I mean, if you think about Crusader Kings 2 was made with like what, 5 or 6 people, like that seems like a lot to me for a game of this scope. I don't know.
But this is also a lot more graphically challenging than CK2.
True.
And it's also like that 100 or whatever people, they're not all coders. That includes marketing, that includes production, that includes
because they did publish
voice actors and all. It includes everything. Whereas, CK2 might have been using a dozen coders, but there's a big background behind that is also CK2.
True. I think the best way to describe it, I've talked about it a lot on my Twitter. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on Warband, or not on Bannerlord, RJ McGear on Twitter said, the whole time I was playing it, I was wondering how in the hell this took 8 years to make. That said, loving every minute of it. That's basically exactly how I feel so far. So, janky as fuck, horrible onboarding process. You have to spend hours on a wiki to get to a point of basic competence. Sounds like a TJ game. So,
I haven't been on the wiki at all yet, so
there's not.
I guess I'm incompetent still.
There's not a lot on the wiki yet, but I did have to look up a lot of like the commands that for like directing troops that they don't really explain to you very well.
F1, F3, that's all you need.
I found that honestly to be very intuitive. You've got 1 through 8 on your keyboard, which pulls up the different groups, and you can assign your troops to different groups in the in your troop menu when you're on the map on the world map. And then it's a little tiny flag up in the right corner by their picture. So you can assign your companions to different groups if you want them to, if you give them different weapons and such. And then inside of that, like the things you're going to be pushing most is like F1, which tells them to charge, follow you, go stand here. You can do F3, which gives them the different formation choices. If you accidentally hit F4, though, with your horsemen, you'll make them all hop off their horse at the worst time.
Yeah, well, that might have been useful to know because, like, the first battle I got in, my horsemen decided to engage a bunch of foot troops on horseback in the middle of a river, and I was just like, oh, come on, guys, please.
First thing you want to do when you open up a battle and you've got horsemen, you want to hit 3, and then F1, F2.
And then F2, yeah.
And that'll tell them to follow you, and then you want to do that the same thing with 4.
I've had that situation multiple times already too, where like I will enter a battle and I'll go charging towards the enemy and I'll realize I forgot to hit F2 and I'll look behind me and there's like nobody there and I'm just surrounded and I'm dead. So,
do you know what works pretty well as I was discovering today is if you are, let's say you have a group of 15 and you attack one of those gigantic groups of looters that are like 30 and you know you can kill them. But just by pure numbers, they'll probably take out some of your guys. If you're on a horse, you can drag half of those guys and have them chasing you around the map while your troops take care of the other half.
Oh, yeah. Standard
that
strategy.
Makes sense, yeah. I will say the individual unit AI is a lot better than Warband. When you actually give them proper orders, they are much less likely to get stuck on a tree or just do something stupid or freeze up and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Can I just say, as an aside, we've now got probably my favorite handle in chat, DevDary McDevDaryface. That's just amazing. I love it.
I like that. I don't know who that is, but you have a great
5 stars, mate. That's great.
Yeah.
And also, you can push N at any time to pull up the encyclopedia in the game, which is so much easier to use with an actual search bar compared to Warband.
That is extremely good to know.
Oh, I had to have someone tell me that because that hotkey is not told to you anywhere in the options.
Exactly.
And there's nowhere to push the button. The only other way that I knew to open it was if you go to your troop menu and you right-click on your troops, it'll pull up the tree for your troop. And then from there, you're into the encyclopedia. But yes.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, that's going to be useful for deciding what I want my troops to spec into when they rank up. No, I'm going to use that. Didn't know that. Yeah, no, that'd be useful.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah, it's very nice so you can see. And one other major change, which I know some people are on the fence about, is the fact that you have to have horses in your inventory to upgrade your troops to horsemen.
Yeah. And it also increases your movement speed, too, if you just have, like, spare horses lying around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Once you get some regular horsemen, I mean, you've spent so many buying horsemen, you can actually catch some of those stupid step bandits and actually and then you get lots of horses for free from defeating them all the time.
I don't know where I got them, but at some point I was like, oh, I've got a spare horse. So I gave one of my characters a horse. Wait, I've still got a horse. Oh, I have 12 horses in my inventory. Oh, that's nice. That's going to come in handy.
You just didn't realize you just had like 12 horses and you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot I had those. I heard clopping behind me as we were, moving through the countryside, but it just didn't really occur to me. But,
look, in the battle that I took them, I did get knocked out. I'm blaming that.
Yeah.
Well, it's also nice that you can lock items in your inventory now.
Didn't know that.
Yep, I didn't know that until Old Man Mordaith. I read his review over on Steam. Yes. When you open up your inventory on the right-hand side, there's a little tiny circle that you could click, and it turns golden, and it locks it for you.
All right, so I'll no longer be selling my bow that I'm not currently using, and just accidentally sell it every time.
The UI is heads and tails above what Warband was.
Yes.
But it does still need some TLC.
I absolutely agree. It is way better, but it still has a long way to go, is exactly how I would describe it. Yeah.
I think the UI can be improved isn't that just a standard of all games? I can't think of a single game that I play, so it's mostly strategy.
Usually,
where
though,
there aren't
there's certain things
like
locking inventory. Almost every other game, locking things is a little picture of like a lock, and it's open when it's unlocked, and you click it, and it's showed as locked. Here, it's a little circle, and it's not so easily intuitive. There's just little things like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll have more thoughts on Bannerlord going forward. Maybe that'll be a good topic for a bonus episode. For this week, we should probably wrap it up. Rose, what have you been up to, and where can people find your stuff?
Enigmatic Rose 4 here on Twitch and on YouTube. Where on YouTube is currently all EU4 Italian Venetian Succession series. And
nice.
Looking here at Twitch, it's probably Bannerlord for the next while.
Nice. Lambert, what have you been up to, and where can people find your stuff?
I'm Lord Lambert over on YouTube, and
so you've acquired a peerage since the last time we talked.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get away from the numbers, so
yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
To
it's very
go
early
Lord.
2000s to have a
alliteration.
Yeah,
kind of speaks to me as well. I mean, I
like
could be King Lambert, and then I'd be even better. But at the same time, Lord,
we know you just stole the idea from Groogy being Sir Groogy.
I actually got it from my niece and nephew who got for my nephew's fourth birthday. He got an actual lordship from his great auntie. You can buy these little plots of land in Scotland, and you get a little certificate that literally makes you a lord. So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I might do that. So I might actually be a lord sometime, maybe. I don't know.
I know you can actually buy titles of nobility from Sealand, which is that abandoned oil platform that declared itself a sovereign state or something.
Yeah, but that's false as fuck, really. Isn't it?
You can also get yourself a lairdship.
A real country.
From Scotland. Entitle yourself a Laird Lambert.
Doesn't really. Oh yeah. So what I'm doing, there's Bannerlord there, there's Imperator Rome there, there's EU4 there, and very recently I started a Stellaris roleplay multiplayer, which has some awesome people in it. I've got Groog in it. I've got Tokriva in it. I've got.
Nice.
I think it's like a 24-25 player multiplayer. It's all based on role play, and it's so much fun, and I'm loving it. And you should check that out. Yeah, and for streams, I also stream on YouTube now.
Yeah, I am AsaTJ on Twitter. That's ASATJ. I just released the first 10 out of 10 I have ever given in almost 10 years as a video game reviewer for Persona 5 Royal, which is very different from the games that we normally talk about on this show. But if you like RPGs with really good story and really good characters, I can highly recommend it. Probably going to be doing some streaming soon with those of you who know me from Loresworn, a familiar face that you may not have heard from in a while. So I'll tease that. Dev Diary McDev Diary Face said, very quick off-topic question. Disco Elysium and Total War 3 Kingdoms just went on sale on Steam. Which one should I get? Those are both fantastic games. I guess I would say if you're more in the mood for a really good, like, handcrafted story that you're going to play through maybe once or twice, I would go Disco Elysium. If you want a strategy game that you're going to be able to play many, many, many times, go with Three Kingdoms. Father Laura says Disco Total War. If that's a real thing, I would say go with that. And
what would be the special units in Disco Total War?
Oh man,
you'd have to have MC Hammer in there.
Yeah, I mean you could have like roller skate infantry would be in there. That you
cannons that shoot disco balls.
I mean you'd upgrade your units by giving them like really big hair, which could increase their armor or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So until next time, we'll be back next week with more news on all of our favorite games. Probably be talking some more Bannerlord here and there. EU4, CK2, Oi 4, Imperator, Vicky 3. The whole gang.
Hopefully they give us weekly dev diaries for Vicky 3, and it wasn't just the announcement.
Yeah, I'm hoping they're going to get on a pretty regular schedule with the Vicky 3 diaries going forward. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Bye, guys.